Hi, so you're working for a living and for someone else, but then you leave that business and start your own company. What do you do with the IRA and the 401k? We're going to talk into some alternatives of how to actually leverage that cash and more information about that. So let's get into the show with Daniel Bloom. Daniel Blue. I'm sorry, Blue. Daniel Blue. Sorry about the name.
Hey, no
It is an
worries.
unusual name, though. I love it, though. I love the color because actually that is the first word of our business is Blue Sky Video, and
Okay.
you're Daniel Blue.
Okay. I mean, that probably bumped me up in the line to jump on your show, so I'll take it.
So we're talking about 401ks, and we titled the show "Withdraw Money from Your 401k Without Penalty." And so before we get into that, let's talk about how you develop your 401k. It's usually through a business. Is that right? Working for somebody else, or do you start off on your own, creating your own 401k?
Yeah, what most people do is when they have a W-2 job, a 9-to-5 job, a lot of employers will offer a retirement plan, and that's where the employer might match some of the contributions that you put into the account. And maybe you decide to put 2%, 5%, maybe 10% of your pay into your 401k. So you're just amassing money into this account in the hopes of this money growing within the stock market.
And how did you get interested in this? Because you didn't come out of high school with a PhD in finance. So how did you get interested in this whole area to begin with?
Yeah, I actually fell into sales. It's interesting. I was 18 years old and I got into a real estate coaching sales industry, and never thought I would be in sales. If you had asked me in school, what did I want to be when I grow up? The last word would have been sales, but I was 18, found myself in a sales position, and was able to excel with the company and move up in the organization and the industry that we were in, the real estate world. I would talk to clients that would bring up the concept of using the retirement account to flip a house, using the retirement account to fund a rental property. And I thought that was interesting because I had always thought that retirement accounts were only for the stock market. So this whole world opened up in terms of, in front of my eyes, self-directed retirement accounts, actually controlling your own money. And I was fascinated by it, ended up making a pivot about 7 years ago, going from the real estate world to the self-directed retirement account world. And I haven't looked back since.
Excellent. Because I came from a background in advertising and marketing, working for somebody else. I started my business 35 years ago, and just really kind of put that retirement fund on the back burner forever. It's like, okay, if I invest in my business grows. But then you come to the point where 35 years later is, do you have a retirement account at all?
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of retirement or a lot of entrepreneurs look at their business as a retirement account. Like that's their only egg. There's not multiple eggs in the basket. There's not a whole lot of diversification. And I sympathize with those kind of people because, I've been there where you're just putting all of your resources into one thing, your baby, your business. But at the end of the day, also, you got to have other streams of income working for you behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always going to be nice to have, especially if it's tax-free, passive income waiting for you when you get ready to retire.
Yeah. And actually, with a 401k, I knew you put it in tax-free. When you take it out, is that when you're at a lower really tax bracket? Is that the benefit of taking it out later, or are you taxed at all with that?
Yeah, so it really depends on the contributions, Bruce. There's two types of contributions that you can make into a 401k or an IRA. It can be pre-tax, meaning the money that you put into that 401k, let's just say you make $40,000 a year at your job, and you take $5,000 of that and you put it into a pre-tax 401k. Now that $5,000 is a tax write-off. It's a deduction. So now instead of paying income tax on $40,000, you're paying taxes on $35,000. However, you're kicking the can down the road because the contributions that you put into that pre-tax 401k, they're growing tax-free, essentially tax deferred, because you're kicking the can down the road. To your point, when you do take the money out, whether you're 60, 65, When you take those funds out, you will pay taxes on that money. The other type of contribution, what I'm a bigger proponent of, is a Roth contribution. And it could be a Roth IRA or a Roth 401k. That means if you make $40,000 at your job and you put $5,000 into that account, that Roth 401k, there are no tax benefits that year. You don't get to write off that $5,000. The trade-off is that money grows tax-free and it stays tax-free.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, you're paying taxes on the seed, but not the harvest.
So let's say you're working for a company and you leave that company to start your own business. What is your advice? You just kind of cash out that 401k, or how do you roll it over? And then we'll get into our topic.
Yeah, I mean, let's just shatter a myth. A lot of our customers that start working with us before they onboard with us, they had no idea that they could access their retirement accounts penalty and tax free. And we talked to a lot of people, unfortunately, where they talk to us too late. And it happens quite often where we're talking to someone, they had 50,000 in a 401k from their old job. They needed the funds and they just cashed that bad boy out. And what ends up happening is they're paying a 10% early withdrawal penalty, plus they're taxed on that money. Maybe the tax rate's 20%. So you got a 20% tax rate plus a 10% early withdrawal penalty. We're talking 30% would go to the IRS if you were to cash that out, right? So that 50,000 all of a sudden turns into what, 35,000? That happens so much. So really at the end of the day, it just comes down to people's situation. If you have a 401k from an old job, a lot of people just out of sight, out of mind, they forget about it. They just leave that 401k with Fidelity or whatever financial company holds that account. And they're not contributing to it obviously anymore because they're not working there. They're probably not paying attention to the statements. It's just kind of floating around in outer space. The popular strategy, what most people do is they take that 401k from their old job and they roll it over into an IRA, and they'll have more investment options. They can invest into like Tesla or Apple, individual stocks. They'll have more options to invest in that IRA compared to the 401k with their old job. Because a 401k with an employer, you only have a few different investment options. It's very, very selective. It's very, very basic. And the option that I don't recommend people do is cashing it out, right? Because you just lose so much to the IRS, but it does happen, unfortunately. An option that a lot of people do not know about is the solo 401k. So if you're an entrepreneur, if you have no W-2 employees, if you have a side hustle, maybe you're a real estate agent, you get 1099 income, you're thinking about starting an online business. If that's you, you qualify for a solo 401k, and this type of account allows you to access the money penalty and tax free. It allows you to invest outside the stock market. So there's a reason you're probably leaving your corporate job and starting a business. You want more freedom, you want more flexibility. And in the solo 401k, it's an IRS approved account that gives you, I would say, the most flexibility out of all the retirement accounts that are out there.
So what does it really take to set that up? Is it just basically a phone call? Is it, I know you offer information to your business, which is, let me pull that up real quick. You run Quest Education. And actually, while we're pulling, I'll pull up our other disclaimers, which is Quest Education is not a registered broker, dealer, analyst, or advisor. They hold no investment license and may not offer to sell, or offer to buy any security. And Quest Education is a publication, communication, and not a recommendation to buy, sell, or a security. So there's our disclaimer. But the information that you have is very valuable and that you provide. So let's talk about what Quest Education is and how you provide the information actually that we've been talking about.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought up those disclaimers, because at the end of the day, that's what separates us from a lot of financial companies out there. Is at the end of the day, most financial companies are there to just shove a product down your throat. They're there to pitch an insurance product, pitch some kind of stock or mutual fund. And at the end of the day, we're in the business of solving problems. And because we deal with a lot of startups, a lot of people that are leaving corporate, starting a new business, these are not people that are seasoned business owners with a bunch of income from their business coming in. Maybe they're using credit cards to start the business. Maybe there's some financial strain in the picture already, and we want to alleviate that pressure. And what ends up happening a lot of times, Bruce, is we'll talk to someone that went to a different financial company and got sold, an insurance product that is making them 6% a year on their money or 8% a year on their money. Meanwhile, they have credit card debt that's costing them 20%. And this insurance agent didn't even care about their credit card debt, probably didn't even ask. And one of the most value plays that the solo 401k has is it can solve people's debt situation. So if you're someone right now that has over $10,000 in credit card debt and you have interest rates in the double digits, you're probably losing money faster than you're making money. And what I mean by that is on one side of the coin, you've got your credit card debt that's costing you maybe 15, 20% interest. On the other side of the coin, you have your retirement account, your 401k, your IRA. Maybe you're making 6, 7, 8, 9% a year on your money. Well, if you're losing 20% to the banks and you're making 8% with your money, you're losing money faster than you're making money, right? Like that math does not calculate in your favor. So you can use a solo 401k to pay off your credit card debt, to maybe fund your business. So there's a lot of different options, and that's why we come across as a education company. That is who we are inside and out. That is what our staff does in terms of being able to really understand where someone is coming from. And that's why I came up with the name Quest Education. People are on a different quest in their life. Some are farther along than others. Some have obstacles that are holding them back from getting to the end of their quest. And if we can look at their situation inside and out and look at their needs and what they have to work with, I like to think of it as a puzzle. And let's see how we can put together this puzzle in the most efficient way possible to alleviate some stress, get some money in people's pocket, and get them in a better situation financially.
And really valuable is that a lot of people work for somebody else. They develop a skill. They turn that skill into a business. And then they go ahead and do that skill forever. But what they lack is that financial background, because a lot of times in school, they don't teach you finance. They may teach you economics, they may teach you math, but they really don't teach you sales, which is one thing. And they don't teach you really how to manage the business.
Yeah, financial literacy, right? And you bring up a great point. You've got P&Ls and business finances, which are important, right? But there's basic personal finances, right? Like a credit score, utilization rate with your credit card debt, how to improve your credit score, business credit, why you should probably set up an LLC. What's the benefit of having a retirement account in your business's name, right? All of these different things that have to do with your personal money that do tie into your business, because ultimately a personal credit score does go into your business, right? Like I started Quest Education with my credit cards, right? Now, when I went to Chase to get a credit card, they did not look at Quest Education and say, oh my gosh, there's so much revenue coming in. Here's a $60,000 0% credit card, right? Quest Education was brand new. There was no income to base their loan off of. So what do they do next? They go off my personal credit, right? And that's our utilization rates and making your payments on time and credit history. And to your point, what should be taught in school is not. And that's why companies like ours exist. So we can pull the curtain back, provide some basic information, some financial knowledge, and give people the tools to be empowered to make their own decisions.
So how can you open up a 401 or a solo 401k? You just kind of call you guys, or although you guys can maybe direct them, and can someone do it on their own?
Oh yeah. So Fidelity, TD Ameritrade, Vanguard, great companies. I know they have solo 401ks there. The difference between those companies and our company is those companies may not have a loan feature on their solo 401k. I know Fidelity does not. I used to have a solo 401k with Fidelity. I actually wanted to test out their platform and see what it looked like. The loan feature is big because at the end of the day, if you want to be able to pull money out of your retirement account, penalty and tax free, and use that money to fund your business or pay off credit card debt, you have to have a loan feature on the solo 401k plan. So if you go with any of those companies I recommended, great companies, great platforms. I've got money with Fidelity in terms of the stock market. So they're solid companies, but really make sure that they have a loan feature on those plans. And then the second point is those plans only allow investments in the stock market. And ultimately, a lot of people want other options beyond the stock market, especially with where we are today and this political climate. You've got inflation going up. We're on a huge bull run. There's people that are leery of the stock market and they'd like other investment options, maybe crypto, maybe real estate, maybe private lending, syndication, precious metals, just alternative investments beyond stocks, mutual funds. That's where a company like ours is completely different from Fidelity. Our plans are self-directed. So that means that you can invest pretty much wherever you want. So if you want to have investments outside the stock market, then you work with a company like ours. So our company has the loan feature and it has this self-directed component where you can invest outside the stock market.
And you mentioned something about loaning money to others. Is that kind of like being your own bank?
Yeah, the loan feature is essentially you're your own bank. The IRS allows a solo 401k owner to take 50% of the account value or 50,000, whichever number is less. You can take that money out penalty and tax free and use that money however you want. Maybe it's paying off your Discover credit card debt. Maybe it's paying off a personal loan at 20% interest. Maybe it's funding your brand new company that you just started after you left your 9-to-5 job. As long as you pay back your solo 401k loan within 5 years, there's no penalties and taxes. And there's an interest rate on the loan. The IRS does require there's an interest rate on the loan, even though you're borrowing your own money. I know it sounds kind of silly, but the interest rate's prime +2. So right now it's 5.25%. It's fixed. The cool part is the interest goes right back to your solo 401k. It goes right back to your retirement account. So that's one way a solo 401k works. The other way is you do have investment options outside the stock market, such as private lending. I see a lot of that going on right now where, you've got a real estate developer that is raising money to build a hospital or build an apartment complex, and he's tapping into a pool of people that own self-directed retirement accounts, and the people that own self-directed retirement accounts can lend the real estate developer money to build the project. And over the 2-3 year period of time, and I'm just using an arbitrary number,
Right.
however long it takes to build that project and exit, the private lender that lended the real estate developer the money is making X amount of money on their money, right? So it's an investment that's not tied to the stock market. So those can be done inside of a self-directed account like a solo 401k.
And with those loans and with those other elements, the rate of growth is probably higher than your 6 or 7%, or especially your 2 or 3% right now.
Yeah, so I'm seeing a lot of different things, Bruce. I'm seeing some customers get 8% a year on their money, 10% a year on their money, 12% a year on their money. So I'm definitely seeing some of the double digits. It just depends on the deal, right? The term. Obviously, there's always risk in every investment. Nothing is risk-free. So there are some components to it, but yeah, I'm seeing those kind of returns.
And then is there kind of a age recommendation? Are you younger entrepreneurs can take more risk because there's more forward life, as opposed to someone who's 65, retired from their job, wants to start a side hustle, and has some cash saved, but then needs additional funding?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really great point. I think it comes down to lifestyle and age, like you said. And I think a lot of people underestimate loss. And what I mean by that is, let's look at 2008, right? Let's pretend that someone was really close to retirement age and they amassed $500,000 in their 401k and they're just getting ready to retire. There's people that lost 50% of their money in 08, right? I mean, that was a huge setback. And so let's just say someone that same person with 500,000 lost 50% of their money, right? So all of a sudden that 500,000 turns into 250,000, right? And then the market did rebound. And I'm just using a make-believe scenario, but let's just say the next year, the market rebounded and that same person that lost 50% last year made 50% again the following year. Well, 50% on paper, you're like, okay, that person is even now, right? They broke even. No, they lost 50% of their money. So now 500 turns to 250, and then 50% on 250 is 125,000, right? So now this person has what, $375,000, right? So they're still short, and that hurts a lot of people. So I know there's a lot of people right now that might be closer to retirement age, and they're just like, shoot, I can't afford a 30%, 40% setback. So it definitely does depend on a few different factors like you brought up.
And so as far as the way that people do invest, there are some risky investments such as crypto. I mean, crypto's lost, what, 50%?
I mean, all it takes is China to say something or Elon Musk to say something and it goes down or up, whatever, whatever comes out of their mouth. So yeah, risk is definitely a word there.
So have you found your clients investing, and you're in Vegas? I got a great Vegas story, and it has to do with '08, where this guy was flipped a small house into a larger house, and this was probably the early 2000s, and then 2004, 2005, flipped it again. He was now into a multi-million-dollar house in 2007, and then went to flip it again, and the market crashed. And so basically, he really had to start all over again. So at what point do you actually cash out and put it into something that is more stable?
That's a really great question. It really comes down to your personal viewpoints, a lot of it too. I can speak very freely about my uncle. He's a family member. He's a customer of ours. He's in his 60s. He is a real estate agent, so he's pretty knowledgeable in the real estate arena. And a lot of his money is in promissory notes. It's in private lending. He finds other real estate developers where he can lend money for a year, 2 years, however long it is. So there's a term like a CD. He knows the deal. He knows what the deal looks like and what the risks are. And then he knows his return. And he just feels way more comfortable putting his money into projects like that, where he feels like he has more knowledge and more control over his money versus his money being in the stock market. He lost his shirt in '08 and had a financial advisor that he didn't feel too good about. And he looks at the numbers and he feels that he bases his thoughts on the actual data, and he's just like, I'm doing way better doing alternative investments versus the stock market. Now, I might not speak about this and have the same opinion or I might report something different next year or 2 years from now, right? Because if the market takes a big crap, my uncle could be in a tough spot, right? So there's people listening right now are like, well, what if real estate takes a crap? And you're right. It just comes down to personal viewpoints and understanding of the market. I doubt he would feel this way if he did not have the experience that he has in real estate. So, maybe someone that does not have experience in real estate is going to shy away from real estate, and they're going to think, well, hey, the stock market has made 8% a year every year since 1920, and Warren Buffett tells me to put my money in an S&P index fund, right? So, I mean, there's a lot of viewpoints, and I think there's some things that are right and probably wrong in every case, right?
Yep. And so with the other option, we're talking about how to pull money out without penalties. How does that work with the solo 401k?
Yeah, again, it would come down to what is the goal. So I had a client out in the Bay Area. She's a real estate agent, and she needed $100,000 to put into a real estate syndication. Same kind of deal. Someone was building an apartment complex. He was raising money. He offered attractive returns to her, and she wanted to use her retirement money to give him to make money, right? So she needed $100,000 out of her IRA. I think it was with Morgan Stanley. She goes to her advisor. She's like, hey, I need $100,000 to put in this real estate deal. Help me. And he's just like, well, we don't offer that. Like, the only thing you could do is just take the $100,000 out as a distribution. She's like, well, I don't want to do that. I'm going to have to pay 30% penalties and taxes. Like, can you help me? He's just like, no, right? So someone like that can take the money from Morgan Stanley, roll it over into a solo 401k, and now use that same $100,000 to put into this real estate deal. And there's no taxable event created. There's no penalties and taxes on the $100,000 transaction. And now that $100,000 can be invested in real estate, and it can grow tax-free or tax-deferred, right? So that's one scenario. Another scenario is, maybe there's someone that needs $10,000 or $15,000 to start their business, or $10,000 or $15,000 to pay off high interest rate credit card debt.
Yep.
Well, if they have that 401k from their old job or that IRA, they can roll it over into a solo 401k, take advantage of that loan feature, right? They can take 50% of the account value or 50,000, whichever number is less, take that money out, penalty and tax free. And now they can use that money how they please, whether it's to pay off credit card debt or fund their business.
This is great information. Something that a lot of entrepreneurs probably never noticed or paid attention to. And a lot of advisors who probably don't talk about it because they've got their standard 401k plans that they offer.
It comes down to following the money. So I have a book coming out in August, and I'm talking about solo 401ks and self-directed plans. And in one of the chapters I talk about, and you probably remember this, Bruce, remember that Fidelity commercial where it was like a green arrow and it would go in the city.
Yep.
And people would follow the arrow, and their whole pitch was just like, follow the green arrow, just follow the green arrow. Like that's what they want us to do, like sheep, like just follow the green arrow. Don't ask questions. And ultimately follow the money, right? These big Wall Street companies make money based off of assets under management, right? They're making 1%, maybe 2% a year on the money they manage, trillions of dollars. So why would they want to teach people how they can use their retirement account money outside the stock market? That makes zero sense to Wall Street, because now that's less money off the table that they're making fees off of. So a lot of times, Bruce, they know about self-directed plans. They know about solo 401ks. They're aware of them. Just why would they want to pitch them? It makes no sense to their business model.
Also, with the information that you're giving here, the book is coming out sometime this year, I imagine?
Yeah, August of this year. Blueprint to Your Best Retirement is the name of it.
And then that information will be on your website?
Yep. People can go to danielblue.me. It's a great resource. I've got a podcast called How Winners Win. We talk about strategies and tips to help people win in their personal life, their financial life. I'm an entrepreneur, full-born entrepreneur in terms of immersed in this entrepreneurial crazy world. There's people listening right now that are probably like, why did I start a business? I'm way different from everyone else. And that's true. Entrepreneurs are definitely different. So I'm just like a lot of people on this call right now. I just might be a little further ahead in the sense of right now I've got 14 employees. I've got 1,000 customers in all 50 states. So I've made a ton of mistakes through this journey of mine. I'm dealing with culture and hiring and firing and marketing and scaling and finances and all the same things that you guys are going through. And maybe you're farther along than me, and kudos to you. But I try to share that with my co-host, Keita Spears, on How Winners Win. So we drop an episode once a week. We sprinkle in some financial literacy as well. So you'll want to tap into that. And then danielblue.me also has information about my course. I've got a course diving deeper about what we've talked about, Bruce, in terms of the self-directed arena. And then it also has a link to my company, Quest Education, where there's some resources there as well.
Yep. So I pulled up the link to the podcast, which I found really interesting. And it's available through a number wherever you get your podcast. I think this is just Apple, but there's also Stitcher and Spotify and a bunch of others.
Correct.
And you just type in How Winners Win podcast, and it will come up to you. And again, danielblue.me is a fantastic resource as well.
Yes, sir.
So, as well as, so you're in Las Vegas. I understand they've opened up again.
Yeah, it's pretty wild right now. My wife, she dances for the Las Vegas Golden Knights, her hockey team out here. And so the arena is packed. You got 18,000 people in the arena. It's great energy, fun times. I think the occupancy rates in the hotels are probably 80-90%. Like it's humming. And I'm not here to get political. I'm an entrepreneur, obviously, so I'm going to be pro-business. So it's really great to see businesses open and people spending money again, because that's what makes this economy turn and be better for all of us, is when people are exchanging money.
Yeah, we should try to hit Vegas at least once a year, because there's a convention out there for broadcasters, which they canceled last year because of COVID. And a lot of their attendees were international and they weren't traveling. But I think they've rescheduled for October of this year. So hopefully I'll be back in Vegas in October. avoiding the July, August months, which I understand are a little blistery out there.
Yeah, I escaped the heat. I just got back from Salt Lake. Got a late flight last night, and it was 1:15 before I left to Salt Lake City, and it was nice to leave 1:15 and go to like 95 degrees in Salt Lake City. So that was nice.
Yep. There used to be an app here. I forgot which one it was, but they would record they would give you a badge if you lived in an area that was below freezing, and then they would give you another badge if you lived in an area that was over 100 degrees. And I think Chicago got to 98 one year, and I still never got that badge.
Oof, that's humid too, I bet.
Yeah. I went to school in Arizona where they always said, yeah, it's hot, but it's dry heat.
Yeah.
Which really doesn't really matter.
Dry sauna.
Hot.
Yep.
Excellent. Well, this is a great conversation. Love having you on. Looking forward to more conversations. Maybe we can get together when I hit town.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's make it happen.
And then as far as following you again, the best place is follow you on danielblue.me. And it has all your content with your connections to your the Quest education as well as your podcast. And I love the podcast.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yeah, and for you social media lovers, I use Instagram and Facebook the most. So if you look up Daniel Blue, I think I'm the only Daniel Blue in Las Vegas. So that would be me.
Yeah, I think your profile is Daniel Blue __.
Yeah. So some kid out in Europe has actually the name I wanted, just Daniel Blue. He's never made a post. I direct messaged him and gave him felt like a pretty decent offer to buy his handle. Hasn't looked at the message, so darn that kid.
Yep. Again, I've got the links in the show notes as well as our posts, so the links are there. It's been great.
Thank you for having me, Bruce.
Thank you, and have a great week.
You too.